Hello friends and welcome back to this channel. Here is a fascinating story of what if Naruto crossed all the line. Prologue. Konoha. Makarov sighed. He sat at his desk and he looked up at the ceiling as his mind began to wander to the events this past month. The jobs that were available at and around the small town of Terra were completely cut in half. It was like there was a guild there. But fact is there wasn't a guild there, nor a thick forest. According to a small investigation that was sent by the Wizard Council, the forest appeared overnight along with many mages that said they were a part of a guild they called Konoha. The only way to tell that they were from Konoha was their headband that depicted of a tribal-like leaf. The people who said these things claimed that the mages were practically overprotective but saints at the same time, like fairy tale. The old mage's thoughts got deeper. There was also a rumor about a Konoha mage that looked almost exactly like Natsu. The only difference was their clothing and that Natsu is a boy and the look-alike is a girl. This girl was apparently not a dragon slayer but a healing mage with superhuman strength. This was one thing that was troubling Makarov the most, due to the fact that Natsu doesn't have a family, and this girl, who was dubbed as the Cherry Blossom Salamander, who was suspected to be the salamander's long-lost sister, was in a dark guild. This made the master's stomach churn. It wasn't sitting right with him. If Natsu got word of this, he would go looking for her, even if it meant tearing Konoha apart with his bare hands. The Fire Dragon Slayer was and has been alone for many years of his life, and now that it's suspected that he has a sister will stun him and rile him up at the same time. So far only Makarov, the other guild masters and the Wizard Council know about this rumor. The Fairy Tale Guild Master knew that he should know, but then again it would be best that he didn't. He couldn't begin to think about what Natsu would say, but he could always try. He closed his eyes and drifted into his imagination. Makarov looked at Natsu, who was sitting at the other end of the desk. Natsu. I have information about a rumor that has been going around this month. Okay. But what does this have to deal with me? The young dragon slayer asked. Makarov took a deep breath, trying to prepare himself about what could happen. The rumor tells of a girl that looks a lot like you. She has been dubbed as the Cherry Blossom Salamander due to her resemblance to you. Many believe that she might be your sister. Natsu shot up. What? Where is SHE? Now Nats, tell me. I need to see if this is true. She is with the Dark Guild, Konoha. No, Natsu said in denial. That can't be true. But it is. Then I guess I'll have to drag her out of that damn Dark Guild and have her join Fairy Tale. Salamander exclaimed, fire surrounding his body. It's too dangerous. Don't worry, I'll be fine. I'll have Lucy, Urza, Gray and Happy with me. We can't lose. With that he stormed out the office. Makarov got out of the precarious daydream. He sat up and decided that it wouldn't be right telling the boy something that could lead to his death. He took a drink of the whiskey that was on his desk. He needed to know more about the guild Konoha. If it's so protective of its guild members that treat each other as family, then why is it a dark guild? There were no reports of deaths caused by the guild, nor it harassing a town, city, or village. There wasn't even a report of mission failures or of them being reckless. But what was the most mysterious thing of all was that they spent most of their money on food and medicine. He then looked at the case file that he had of the reports of the guild. It read mostly of theories, rumors, and speculations. There wasn't many names of the members or the amount of the members it has. Heck, there wasn't even a picture of the guild. But the one thing it does have is the way the members speak. They say their last name before they say their first name. 'Twas puzzling to think about, but he paid no mind to it and focused his thoughts on the few mages that were known about that were in the strange dark guild. Shikamaru Nara. He has strange magic that is suspected to be either a new type of magic or an ancient type of magic that allows him to control his shadow. If his shadow touches his opponents, he can force them to mimic his own actions. Shino Aburame. He is said to have a strange magic that allows him to be able to control insects. It is rumored that he has insects in his jacket, but later speculated that he is in a type of symbiosis with them, which would mean that the bugs live inside his body, but there is no wound on him that would allow him to use to get the bugs out. This caused a major theory that the bugs come out of his pores. Either way, he has the ability to control the insects. He can even use them as weapons and shields. The bugs seem to have the ability to feed off of Shino's opponent's magic energy, which makes him twice as dangerous. Neji Hyuga. His magic is suspected to be wind or sky magic. With this magic he is able to temporarily disable the magic against any opponent he faces. The effects of his magic is said to last at least 24 hours to a week. He is also said to be able to give his opponents internal damage. Sakura Haruno. She is heavily known for her resemblance to Natsu Dragneel. With her pink hair, green eyes, short temper, and signature move the Cherry Blossom Clash, she has been dubbed as the Cherry Blossom Salamander. Her magic is very mysterious. She is said to have superhuman strength and is talented in healing and close combat. From recent reports, with a single punch she can break the ground into several pieces, causing them to shoot up like stalagmites. It is however unknown whether or not she is related to Natsu Dragneel or not, or if she is a dragon slayer. Kiba Inuzuka. His sense of smell and hearing is said to match that of a dog, which is similar to that of a dragon slayer. He has a large dog following him around. According to recent reports, the dog's name is Akumaru. With this dog, Kiba is able to perform a spell that he calls Fang over Fang, which causes him and Akumaru to turn into white tornadoes that can go through just about anything, from stone to steel. One can only imagine what they can do to human bone. Makarov closed the file with a long sigh. If I keep this on my mind all day I just might end up turning my hair even grayer than it already is. I'm sure there will be a time when I can tell the boy, but now is not the time at all. He drank the last of the whiskey and went downstairs to see how his family is doing. World apart a month. It's been a month since they've been away from the Hidden Leaf Village. The reminder was always there and Tsunade couldn't take it. She would just sit there in her office thinking about how she, Team Kakashi, Team Asuma, Team Kurenai, Team Guy, Yamato, and Sai, could get back home. But fact is, she didn't know how. All the Hokage could do is hope. The thoughts of the worst flood her mind every once in a while as she hid it with some determination and a swig of sake. Though she'd never admit it, she was worried. The situations that were currently at hand is getting to her. As she kicked her feet up onto the side of her desk, she sighed. There were many situations at hand. Konohagakure is completely destroyed and it needs to be rebuilt. Without them there and Konoha destroyed, they're all vulnerable. Especially with the war that is going to begin. She and the teams of shinobi that are currently with her are in a place that is filled with kinds of people that are called mages and wizards, who gather in places called wizards' guilds. They apparently use a type of energy that they call magic, but what's more worrying is that they were becoming wizards themselves. Tsunade looked out the window as she thought about the subject of magic. Magic apparently deals with the energy from the world around the wizard along with the energy from the spirit. Chakra deals purely with the energy from the spirit. Slowly the energy from this place is connecting with our chakra. She bit her thumb. She noticed that Kakashi has been using less and less hand seals when he performs jutsu. Heck, the guy doesn't even need any hand seals when he uses his fire style. Fireball jutsu. It's getting worrying with each passing day. She remembered when she and the others first witnessed magic. It was when they first woke up near Terra. Flashback. Do you think you can do it? Tsunade asked, looking at Yamato. They were in what looked like to be a forestless village. They didn't want to disturb the villagers, nor did they want to come in contact with the shinobi there, if there was any. Hiding in a thick forest seemed to be the best option. Yeah, but I'll be out of chakra for a few days, Yamato said, troubled. He concentrated on his chakra, then preformed the first few hand seals, but before he could finish, there was light chime and a sudden green light with a strange circle with strange symbols and drawings on it appeared beneath him. Neji and Hinata activated their Byakugan. More of the glowing circles appeared outside of the unknown village. There was more than thousands of the circles with the chimes. Suddenly trees began spouting and making a thick forest along with a building in the middle of it. The circles disappeared once the deed was done. Yamato looked fine. He didn't seem tired, but he was shocked like everyone else. What kind of jutsu was that? Naruto asked. I was going to use my wood style. Dark forest and wood style. 4-pillar house jutsu, but they just happened. I didn't even need finish the hand seals, Yamato said. Neji, Hinata, what did you see? Tsunade asked. There was a strange energy that fused with Yamato-sensei's chakra. It seemed to be attracted to the use of it, Neji said. Yes, once it fused with the chakra it formed the strange circles and light then preformed the jutsu for him, Hinata said. They were all puzzled, but this wasn't the place or time to worry about that. They will have to do research tomorrow. They all made their way to the house that Yamato made. Shino stopped in his tracks. What's wrong, Shino? Kiba asked. My bugs. They seem to be able to sense the energy that helped Yamato, Shino said. Really? Tsunade asked. Yes. They said because it's an energy, they are able to eat it. But strangely enough, this energy is everywhere and is able to be accessed at any time. This energy is infinite. Shino said, looking at one of his beetles. An infinite energy that can fuse with chakra? The cage mumbled. That's strange. She now knows that the circle that appeared is known as a magic circle. It appears when magic is being used. She looked at the reports that Neji and Shikamaru had given her. It talked about how wizards can only control very little of their chakra whilst others can control more of it, but if they try to go past their limit it could kill them. It was very strange, but it explains a lot. It explains why their strength has increased dramatically. Sakura's strength has gotten a bit past the Hokage. But Tsunade's had tripled. Everyone has gotten stronger. It was weird. Even healing has gotten better and easier. She threw the reports back on the desk, causing them to move some other papers on it, which then revealed a magazine. She glanced at it, then looked away. The magazine was called Sorcerer. She grabbed it and flipped to the page that bugged the hell out of her. The words that Mebuki had spoke to her on her first few days as a cage echoed in her mind. Flashback. Mebuki bowed to Tsunade. The Hokage knew this woman to be Haruno Sakura's mother. Lady Hokage, please forgive my intrusion, but I must ask something of you. The mother's words were slightly shaky, as if she had been crying. What is it? Tsunade asked. My son. He has been missing since the Nine Tails attacked 13 years ago. Tears welled up in the eyes of the Jonin in front of her. He was only 9 months old at the time. Kazashi and I were helping the other shinobi protect the village. He was safe and sound in his crib. When it was all over, he was gone without a trace. His body was never found. Lord Third promised us that he'd do everything in his power to find him, but he is still missing. The fifth Hokage knew what was being asked of her, and now that he is gone, you want me to look for your son. Please, are you sure that your son is still alive? A mother knows. I know he is alive. What is his name? Sanshuo. Sanshuo, Japanese for salamander. Tsunade thought aloud. He has pink hair. For some reason it made Kazashi and I think of salamanders. Mebuki said with a light smile as she wiped the tears off of her cheeks. I see. I'm guessing that he'd be about 14 years old now. That is correct, he was born on the 9th of January. Tsunade nodded. I'm not making any promises, but I'll do whatever I can to see about finding your son. Thank you, Lady Tsunade. Mebuki bowed. She looked at the page which had bothered her so much. A mother knows. She mumbled. It depicted a boy that looked to be 17, he had salmon hair, tan skin, black eyes, and he seemed to have a similar style to Sakura's. He looked a lot like Sakura, Kazashi and Mebuki. The boy's name was Natsu Dragneel. He is one of the 2 dragon slayers of the Wizards Guild. Fairy Tail. He has the nickname Salamander. When Tsunade first saw this magazine, she immediately thought of Haruno Sanshuo. Here he is. But instead of Sanshuo being his name, it's Natsu. I need to give him and Sakura a blood test to see if he really is Sanshuo. She knew that Mebuki and Kazashi told Sakura about Sanshuo. She didn't know if she should tell her about Natsu. How would her student react? She wouldn't charge into Fairy Tail, that's for sure. But still. In time. I'll tell her when the time comes. There were screams coming from the outside of her office. She sat up and held her hand up as if to catch something. Naruto. Sakura screamed, obviously angered. Naruto bursted through the door, his face landed in the cage's hand. What am I gonna do with you kids? She sighed. Makarov looked at all the wizards in his guild. They all were embracing the world, enjoying their lives and magic in their own way. It was beautiful. If someone took that away, he would strike them with a vengeance. He smiled when he saw Gray throw Natsu across the room. The old mage couldn't help but imagine a girl with pink hair laughing at the scene. The guilt was getting to him. What's wrong, Master? He turned and saw Urza. Nothing. Master, please tell me. I know something is bothering you. The stern mage said persistently. She is always persistent when it comes to something bothering him. It was because of the fact that he was there for her when something troubled her. She felt that she should do the same for him in return. He knew there was no escaping it. Come with me. They both walked into his office. He began to explain to her about Konoha and Sakura. Urza was surprised about the whole ordeal. When he finished explaining, he asked, "I can't tell Natsu. He would just go charging off to Konoha to get her. What should I do?" She sat down and began to think. "I don't know, master." Sudden realization hit the young Requip mage. "May I see the files of Konoha?" He handed her the files. She carefully scanned them. "What if you send him, myself and the rest of our team to do research on Konoha?" Makarov got wide-eyed. He knew what she meant. If we go and investigate Konoha in Terra, Natsu will most likely meet Sakura, and they'll be able to talk it out. "Urza, you're a genius," he exclaimed. With that, they made the plan which would be kept between them and stay between them. The Fairy Queen then walked out of the room to set the plan in motion like a flag in the wind. Makarov hoped for the best. If everything goes according to plan, the Fire Dragon Slayer would gain either a friend or a blood family. But if it doesn't, there could be war. That is if Konoha reacts badly. The other dark guilds reacted badly when they were being investigated. There was only one way to find out. Hopefully everything will come out positive and end in guffaw. Hopefully. Everything would be like a fairy tale, and live happily ever after in the end. "Are you sure everything will turn out as that plan of yours?" A certain Uchiha huffed with his signature death glare to the world. "I assure you, Sasu, Madara, I can speak for myself, Te," said a voice that showed that the person it belonged to was the same age as the young Uchiha. The speaker walked out of the darkness of the cave. "Sasuke, I've lived many lives and I've seen many things. Everything will go as planned, Te." The speaker was a tall boy with short black hair that turned gray at the tips. He wore a strange outfit that showed he wasn't in the Akatsuki. He wore just a gray t-shirt, black pants, and dark gray shoes. He had a necklace that had a single rare black pearl. This guy was simple, but his shark-toothed grin showed differently. "I'm sure you know Haruno Sakura, Te?" "Yes, I know her, Fua." Sasuke huffed. "I used to be a part of her team, and a while back she tried to kill me." Fua laughed. "Well, did she ever tell you that she has a brother, Te?" Sasuke was silent. He was still a baby at the time. "I used him as a test subject and sent him to a completely different world, Te." "You can do that?" Suigetsu exclaimed. "Yes. And that is where I sent the Hokage and her little posse, Te." Fua grinned. "You see, in that other world, there is a certain place that I want gone. And in my plan that place shall come here and join the war, Te." Sasuke and the Taka barely knew a damn thing about that plan. All they knew is that the plan depicted the strongest of Konoha were to disappear temporarily, so the village shall be occupied, looking for them. Then when they return, that is when they shall be slaughtered in the war. "And what is this place that you want gone?" Jugo asked. "Its name is Fairy Tale. That place is the cause of my suffering, Te." The boy sighed. "I'm not gonna give you any details, but let's just say that someone close to my heart joined it and then turned against me, Te." He began levitating. "Don't worry your pretty little heads about anything. Everything is under control, Te." Fua was a mysterious boy. No one knew a thing about him. The only one who knew anything about him was Madara, but he only knew that Fua knew a strange kind of jutsu that had no need for hand seals. And that's it. So if that's all that they knew of him, just who are you, Fua? The train stopped. Urza had finished telling Natsu and the others about Konoha. She didn't mention Sakura. She only gave them examples of the dark mages by telling them about Kiba, Shino, and Shikamaru, along with how they say their last name before their first name. Natsu made fun of it for a while until his motion sickness kicked in. Now that they were off of the train and found a place to stay, they split up to look for information. Urza was on a far side of town. She noticed that the townspeople were happy. They were living normal lives. Usually dark guilds causes people to fear wizards altogether. But not this one. Tsunade was in town. She was on the far side of it. She was reading the newest sorcerer magazine, since the one she had was an old one from last month. She wanted to see if there was anything about Sanshuo, or as he is now called, Natsu. There was barely anything. But apparently he works with a red-haired woman named Urza Scarlet. With slight disappointment, she pocketed the magazine and began walking away from the stand that she bought it from. Urza heard that there was a stand that sold magazines not too far from where she is. Maybe she could get information from the seller. As she walked to the direction of the stand, she passed a blonde woman that looked to be in her mid-20s. She had a blue diamond on her forehead. Urza could sense the woman had very powerful magic. But she decided to pay no mind to it because she didn't want trouble, so she carried on to the stand. Tsunade walked past a young teen with blood-red hair. She wore an iron beat plate and a dark blue skirt. She could sense that the teen had a pretty good control of her chakra. The Hokage stopped in her tracks. The teen paid no mind to her. She looked back and watched as the teen walked away. Scarlet Urza? Tsunade said under a light breath. Non-existent information. It didn't take long for Team Natsu to meet up again at their hotel. They took a seat across from each other. Curious to see what one another had found out. They were all wondering and dreading the possibilities about the mysterious Dark Guild, Konoha. So, what did you all find? Urza asked. Well, according to the blacksmith, there is a Konoha mage by the name of Tenten, who goes there to get custom-made ninja stars and throwing knives. Gray said, I asked him if he could give me some just to see what they look like and to show all of you, and he happily obliged. He took the weapons out of his pocket. There were only two. One was a four-pointed star with a hole in the middle. The other was a thick, narrow diamond-shaped knife with a thin handle with round ring at the end of it. The weapons were pretty heavy, being made of pure iron and all, but they looked very useful. Whoever this Tenten is, she has a unique taste of weaponry. Surprisingly, Natsu paid no attention nor even give a comment about the weapons. He just looked at the floor. He seemed troubled. Happy flew over to the two weapons and got the ninja star. The cat then went over to Natsu and said, Look Natsu, it's pretty cool huh? No answer. Natsu seemed very out of it. Happy frowned, and put the ninja star back, then flew to Lucy. What's wrong with him? Lucy asked. I don't know, he has been acting like that when he finished investigating the hospital. The blue cat sighed. You weren't with him? Urza asked. No, I lost him when I saw a big dog running towards me. He had this big bone in his mouth. And some guy said, Come on Akumaru. One bite. Please. The dog was huge. For a moment I thought it might eat me. Happy whined. When the coast was clear, I flew to the hospital and that was when Natsu walked out of there. He's been quiet since. He hasn't said one word since he walked out of there. Whatever it is, it must be bad to get him this quiet. Gray said with long sigh. I got an idea. With a smile he grabbed a book that Lucy had gotten from the library and threw it at Natsu's head. It surprisingly hit its target. The Fire Dragon Slayer glared at the Ice Make Wizard. Everyone wasn't prepared for what the pink-haired mage was about to do. Got it, Kiba said, victoriously holding up a large bone in his hand. It took him almost an hour to win the bone off of Akumaru, after chasing him around in the longest fight in the history of fights that they had, but it was certainly worth the effort. It had obliterated the fight they had last week when it came to a game of tug-o-war with a long chew toy. Kiba swiftly put the bone in his mouth before Akumaru could jump up to steal it. Would the two of you quit acting like you're back at the academy? It's getting embarrassing. Shino said walking up to them. The stoic ninja was exhausted from running after them, trying to make sure that they stayed out of trouble. No one wanted another incident like the one they had when Kiba had knocked over Sakura in such a way that Sai kept calling them the pink puppy couple for 3 weeks. The only bright side was that because of that incident, Sai had laughed for the first time. Kiba huffed and turned his back to his teammate, not taking the bone out of his mouth. He said, Enry's try, sure no, buff I'm en rot tracking fris brone ort of mry mouth. Shino rolled his eyes as Akumaru and Kiba got into another fight. Suddenly there was bang and the sound of glass breaking. He looked up and saw someone falling from the sky. The person landed on top of Akumaru and Kiba, immediately stopping the fight. Ow! Kiba and the mysterious boy said as Akumaru whimpered. You all okay? Shino asked. They all got up. Suddenly the boy looked up at the building that they were in front of. One of the windows was broken. He began yelling at whoever was in the room that had the broken window. Just wait till I get back up there you overgrown toaster oven. I'm gonna kick you straight to oblivion for this. Swiftly the boy left the scene and into the hotel without another word. That wasn't awkward at all, Kiba said sarcastically as he held the bone in his hand. To his surprise, Akumaru swiftly took the bone and began running. Kiba began chasing after the large dog as he said, Damn it. Shino was now alone, he face-palmed.
Sometimes he wonders how he even dealt with the two.
He had considered Kiba a human dog, but then again, the Inuzuka clan was filled with human dogs. His mind began to drift. He was curious about the boy who got thrown out the window. Whoever it was. They need to pick up their clothes. Who takes off their clothes then runs around, only wearing their boxers. With a sigh he picked up the clothing and made his way to the hotel. He was always polite and sometimes a bit too nice. His mother always told him that sometimes kindness can lead to friendship, rewards, or help in a time of need. It was one of the few things that he could still remember about his mother before she died of a fatal blow from a fight with a Rouge ninja. He was only 4 years old at the time. He asked the woman at the counter if she knew who the clothes belonged to, and what room the person was staying in. She smiled and said, "Oh, the fairy tale wizards are staying in room 119. Fairy tale? Is that the name of a real wizard's guild? Shino thought as he walked up the stairs and wandered the halls. After a minuet he found the room. There were sounds of fighting and screaming behind the door. One way to find out. He heard the voice of the boy, "Come at me, flame brain." Then there was a voice that he didn't recognize, "I will if you'd put some clothes on, you damn rejected snowman." Damn it! The boy screamed. Shino couldn't help but wonder about the strange insults, but it strangely reminded him of when he was still a genin and how he would almost always see Naruto and Sasuke fighting, and insulting one another. But it mainly reminded him, Sakura and Ino's arguments and how Ino would call Sakura, billboard brow, and Sakura would call Ino pig. Shino would sometimes think about intervening but would always decided to stay out of it. With a sigh Shino knocked on the door. Someone slowly opened it. It was a girl with long blonde hair, and bright blue eyes. She looked about his age. If anything she looked a bit like Naruto's Bippy Jutsu transformation, but a lot more decent. Telling by how her right eyebrow was twitching, and the look on her face things were getting drastic. "I think that someone lost these," Shino said, holding up the white and blue clothing. "Gray," the girl called. The boy that had fell out of the window a moment ago responded and came to the door. "So that's his name," Shino thought. "Oh, thanks," Gray said as he slowly took the clothes. Aburame Shino. Gray Fullbuster. It was easy to tell that everyone in the room became a little suspicious and troubled about him. He couldn't help but wonder why. Suddenly the pink-haired boy in the room tried to attack Gray. Shino immediately used his bugs to cover the boy's arms and legs and feed off of his chakra. After all, a mage can't use magic without their chakra. Shino just couldn't help it. The flames on the boy's fists were extremely hot. If he had not stopped him, Gray would be in need of a skilled medical nin. Natsu's body was suddenly covered with millions of bugs. It was scary. He could feel that they were feeding off of his magic. The fire that was on his hands disappeared into nothing. "I don't think that it would be fair for you to attack someone who is occupied," Shino said bluntly. The dark mage seemed to lack any emotion, especially with flames that hot. The fairy tale wizards then knew that Shino was in fact the very Shino that they read about in the reports about Konoha. With a small sigh the dark mage said, "I don't know why you and Gray are fighting, nor do I want to know, but I doubt it's worth the two of you tearing this hotel down, or putting one another in the hospital." Slowly the bugs left the Dragon Slayer's body and went to Shino. The bugs practically went up the dark wizard's sleeves in one big black cloud. Natsu fell to the carpeted floor with loud "Pomph." "I apologize for my intrusion. I better find my friend. I have a feeling that he is causing a lot of trouble." With that the dark mage left. Shino left the hotel. He had left a single female beetle in the room, more specifically on the back of the blue cat. He had a feeling that they all might need his help. He was very cautious. But he didn't want one of the wizards in that room be put on life support. He was defiantly being too kind, but then again, he had a feeling that he might need their help. "Lucy, I'm scared," Happy said, hugging the celestial mage. "What was that?" Lucy asked. They all looked at Natsu, who was on the floor exhausted. Because of him, they saw something that was defiantly blood-chilling. Where did those bugs come from? Where did they go? How can they make someone with so much life become so exhausted that he would just let himself fall the floor? "You, okay?" Gray asked. "Yeah. Next time. I'm throwing you out the door, instead of the window," Natsu said between breaths. "What's wrong with you? You've been so silent after gathering information about Konoha," Urza said. You haven't even told us what you found out. Natsu fell silent for a moment. It's because I was thinking about my time with Ignil. What does that have to do with anything? Gray asked. Because when I asked the nurses if they knew anything about Konoha, they asked me, why do you need to ask us? Isn't your sister, Sakura, a part of the guild? Shino stopped in his tracks. It has only been a minuet that he had left the insect with Gray and the other fairy tale mages, yet that same beetle was flying right in front of him. He held out a finger so she could land on it. Soon it began spill words of shocking news. Shit. Shino mumbled under a short breath. He let the bug crawl back into him as he raced back into the forest, heading to the temporary home. Time skip. What? Tsunade shouted. You're telling me that a wizard's guild is investigating us? Shino's glasses fell from the bridge of his nose, revealing his brown eyes to the Hokage. He immediately put the sunglasses back in place. Why yes, Lady Hokage. That is what my beetle told me. She also said that one of the wizards, one that goes by the name of Natsu, had talked to some of the nurses of Terra. They had asked him if Sakura was his sister. She fell back into her chair. Damn it. Today is not my day. What's wrong? He asked. Can you keep a secret? Is my family very stoic? Good one. With a sigh, Tsunade began explaining the true situation at hand to the young Chunin. When she finished she said, I don't know what I'm gonna do. If Natsu is Sanshuo then that means he is not even supposed to be here. And how is Sakura gonna react? Or Fairy Tail? How is he going to react? He thinks that we're the bad guys. Not only that, with the fight that happened between Neji and some dark mage. This is not going to end well. She pulled out a large bottle of whiskey from a drawer on her desk, popped it open, and took a large swig, showing that the stress was getting to her. Shino thought about it. He looked at the magazine that Tsunade showed him. It showed the boy who had tried to attack Gray. You are right. I too think that this could cause a lot of trouble. Would you like me to send some of my insects out into Terra and use them to spy on the wizards? She raised an eyebrow. As long as they report to you anything that would be of importance, and you must report to me their findings. Of course. Shino then left, leaving the Hokage alone with her thoughts. The bugs were only going to give her slight relief, but it's better than none at all. Shino wasn't all that talkative, so there was a very little chance that anyone would even ask him anything. But how would Sakura's parents react to the news if Natsu is their lost son? Time skip. It had been a week. There wasn't a sign of Shino, or any Konoha mages. It was like they never existed. Information was scarce, and everyone was bored. Lucy was at the library, Urza was at the weapon shop, Natsu, Happy, and Gray. They were together walking about Terra. The two rivals thought about fighting each other again, but Urza would kill them if they did. They walked past crowds of people at the town's markets. Gray then saw a hooded teen off in the distance. He knew it was Shino. Gray ran to the figure. Hey Shino. The hooded teen looked at Gray, Natsu, and Happy. Oh, morning, Gray. Shino, this is Natsu and Happy, Gray introduced. Shino looked at the Dragon Slayer and Cat. Nice to meet you. L likewise. Natsu stuttered. Listen, Shino, I was wondering, what kind of magic do you use? Gray asked. Shino was silent for a moment. It's complicated. My kind of magic runs in my clan. Unlike other clans, every member of the Aburame clan is in a symbiosis with an insect. When a child is born into our clan, they will be offered to a special breed of insects as a nest. Some members of my clan poses extremely venomous insects. These insects can only be in a symbiosis with those who poses a certain type of magic. The two fairy tale wizards were a bit creeped out. How was such a thing even possible? So, you're like a walking beehive? Happy asked. Shino stared at the cat. Basically, actually there is a clan that is like mine that use bees. That sounds like a harsh life. Natsu said. Not really. When you grow up like this, it becomes normal to you. The dark mage said. He acknowledged the Pinkette's troubles. Are you alright? Oh, I'm fine. The Dragon Slayer lied. Whatever you say. Shino sighed. So what kind of mages are the two of you? I'm an ice mage. I'm a fire dragon slayer. I see. Stoic much, Gray thought. So, why did you join a dark guild? Dark guild? What do you mean? The insect mage asked. He means, why did you join the dark guild? Konoha, the little blue cat said happily. Oh, Konoha isn't a dark guild, Shino said. What do you mean it's not a dark guild? Natsu exclaimed. I meant what I said, Konoha is not a dark guild. The fairy tale mages were confused. What did the dark mage mean by all of this? If it isn't a dark guild, then what is it? Gray asked. Konoha is slang for Konohagakure, which means, hey Shino. Shino was cut off by someone shouting his name. The three boys and cat looked at the person who called. It was a large boy that seemed to have not watched his weight, or just really wants to challenge Ritas in size. He had long, brown, spiky hair. He wore an outfit of red and black. He also had gray armor plating. There were red swirls on his cheeks. He also wore a Konoha headband, but unlike Shino's, it was red. The large teen rushed over to the group. Oh, Choji. What's going on? Shino asked. Lady Tsunade has summoned you, Choji explained. Really? What for? The insect mage asked. She didn't say, but whatever it is it must be important, the large teen said. She has been upset all day, so I'm guessing she needs you for something. Can we come? Gray asked. I'm kinda curious about this guild of yours. Yeah, so am I, Natsu said. Shino. Who? They're wizards from the Wizards Guild. Fairy tale. Shino explained. Oh. Choji scanned the two wizards. I don't think it would be a good idea. Tsunade is already stressed as it is. I'm sure that she wouldn't like it if the two of you would suddenly walk into her office. Not to mention the two of you don't look like you're ready to go to your own funerals. What do you mean by that? Natsu asked. When Lady Tsunade is stressed, she had an extremely short temper. Shino sighed. Even the slightest cough could get you literally flying out of the building. I remember once a guy named Sora insulted her. To this day he is still terrified of her. No kidding, he wasn't even in her office for half a second and he was sent flying through her door and into a wall. Choji exclaimed. Damn. Natsu said. Ouch. Gray complimented. On second thought, we'll just stay here. Happy agreed. Meanwhile Urza happily walked about the town of Terra. She was on her way to the town's weapon shop. She heard that the shop sold really good weapons, but she wanted to see for herself. The bell chimed as she opened the door and walked in. She quickly began examining the weapons. She soon came upon a sword that was very unique. The blade was thin. The handle too was thin. The blade itself was fairly long. It was long enough to be placed on the back but short enough to be able to be controlled with much ease. I'm guessing you're also interested in that sword, a voice said. She looked behind her and saw a man that looked older than her. His face was hidden by his dark blue mask. His Konoha headband was tilted in a way to hide his left eye. His right eye was the only part of his face to be revealed. How did he? I didn't even sense his prescience, she thought. She composed herself and responded, yes. It is a very interesting sword. I've never seen one like it. Why? Do you also have an interest in this sword? Yes, actually, it's reminiscent to the sword I had when I was about your age, he said. He slowly picked up the sword. Surprisingly, he used his magic on the blade, which made it glow and spark like lightning. Like I thought, it's even compatible to my magic. He stopped the magic flow, then grabbed the weapon by the blade. Want to give it a try? She was surprised about how polite he was. I can't, unlike you, I'm a re-equip mage. A re-equip mage use their magic to summon weapons and armor. Oh. What kind of wizard are you? Urza asked, her curiosity getting to her. I guess you could call me a copycat mage, he said as he wielded the sword properly. Copycat? What can I say? I only have a few spells in my arsenal that are actually mine. She couldn't help but be confused about what the dark mage meant. There wasn't such a thing that could allow someone to copy magic. Or was there? She witnessed a dark mage control insects like puppets. How was this any different? My name is Urza Scarlet. Haruki Kakashi. He smiled. It's an honor to meet the famed fairy queen of fairy tale. She smiled back. I'm guessing you've already figured out why I'm here in Terra. You made it too easy. He sighed. You're here to investigate us. She nodded sadly. The master will not like this at all. Well, I'm actually here not only for the sword, but Lady Tsunade sent me here to answer your questions. She specifically said that if you were to find out that we were on to you and your team, for me to just answer all your questions as long as you answer hers, he said bluntly. Titania was astonished, though there was a problem. She didn't have all the questions that Master Makarov once answered. I think it would be best if Master Makarov were to meet your guildmaster personally. Kakashi seemed like he was a bit surprised by this. I guess you're right. Lady Hokage does have more questions that she wants to be answered. He leaned on the shelf. Well, how about this? I'll ask her if it's alright if she meets your guildmaster in person. For a drink, if she says yes. You send one of your teammates to ask him if he wants to meet the Hokage. If he says yes, then they'll be able to talk it out. Sound like a plan? How do I know if you're actually trying to ambush him? Urza huffed. How do I know if you're actually here to kill everyone in the forest and town? So basically you want me to just take this chance and see what happens? Yes, but I'm also sticking my neck out as well. So is it a deal or not? I expect them to meet up on Saturday. Kakashi watched as Urza walked out of the shop. After the moment passed, he let out a deep breath. If I didn't know better, I'd say that she was Kushina, but she died years ago, he thought. He made his way to the register, bought the sword, then began to make his way to his deathbed. This mini skip is bought to you by a moon-walking chibi Akumaru and Plu. No, Tsunade growled. You know you have to, it's for the best. Kakashi argued. How do you know they're not really trying to have a guild war? It's bad enough that we have to deal with the fact that a dark guild is plotting against us, but this? The Hokage slammed her fist against her desk, causing it to crumble into nothing but firewood. Calm down. I doubt that they'll do something like that. Besides, you had Shino send his insects all over Terra. There is no way that Fairy Tail can even touch you without us knowing. She slumped down against the wall as she groaned. She thought about it for a moment and soon came to a conclusion. Fine. This Saturday. And he better show up. After a moment of silence, there was a knock on the door. Come in. Tsunade growled. Why? You summoned me, Shino said shakily. Yes, now come in. The Hokage said. Urza sat on her bed. She was going to have to wait till Lucy comes to the hotel. But the only thing on her mind was how she didn't sense Kakashi's presence. No one can be that sneaky. No one. She didn't sense his magic, hear his breathing or his footsteps. It was like he was a ghost. She couldn't help but think about how he said he used copycat magic, and that he only had a few spells that were actually his. The Titania heard the door open. To her relief, it was her friends. She had them sit down and told them about Kakashi and the plan about having both of the guild masters meet. Are you kidding me? Natsu shouted. Are you seriously telling me that you want Gramps meet this Tsunade woman? I have to agree with Natsu, Gray sighed. Shino and some guy named Shoji told us that Tsunade has one hell of a temper. Some kid named Sora tried to meet her, and he apparently got thrown out of her office not even a second after he had walked in. I don't think it's a good idea. Sorry guys, but I agree with Urza, Lucy sighed. What? Natsu and Gray said shocked. Well, you see. Flashback. Lucy looked around the library. She had Plu out to help her. She didn't find any records about a dark guild being in Terra, which made the search even harder. She had been there almost an hour. With a sigh, she looked down only to find that Plu was nowhere in sight. She knew that Plu had enough magic to last him about another hour or so he wasn't in the celestial spirit world. Plu. She called out silently, Plu, where are you? Excuse me, but would this summon be yours? A tired voice asked. She turned around and saw a tired-looking boy with his long black hair tied in a high ponytail. He wore a padded green vest over a black long-sleeved shirt, along with black pants with matching black sandals. On his left sleeve was a metal plate that had the symbol of the Dark Guild. Konoha. As scared as Lucy was, she was slightly relieved that he was holding Plu in his arms. Yes, she smiled, thanks you. He handed over the little white celestial spirit over to her as he said, it interrupted my game of shogi with my friend Neji. Oh, sorry. Nara Shikamaru, Lucy Heartfilia. She shook hands with him, but she couldn't help but think, what have I gotten myself into? I'm in the same building with two of the most recognized dark wizards of Konoha. So what's shogi? She asked. Oh, let me show you, it's a pretty cool game. Shikamaru said in slightly bored tone as he led her to this mysterious game. It's a lot like chess, it even has similar pieces. Soon they made it to the table where a boy with long brown hair was waiting. He looked to be blind. He wore a white robe-like outfit along with white pants and black sandals. He also had brown headband that had the symbol of Konoha on it. That is Neji Hyuga. Lucy thought. He doesn't look like he could take down anyone. He is blind. Or maybe he uses visual magic. The brunette looked over to Shikamaru. I see you found the owner to the summon. Yeah, she wanted to know what shogi was, so I thought it would be okay to let her see it for herself. Shikamaru stated. Lucy. This is Hyuga Neji. Neji, this Heartfilia Lucy. Nice to meet you, Neji said with a small smile. Likewise, Lucy smiled back. But before the game could begin, girl with pink hair and green eyes ran up to them. Lucy almost mistook her for Natsu. Neji. The girl almost half shouted. Hinata was attacked. What? Neji looked as if he was almost shot in the heart. Who attacked her? It was a dark mage from the same guild as the one who attacked you, Dark Guild. Red Griffin. The pinkette stated. How is she? Is she okay? Shikamaru asked. She is fine, only a few bruises. I can't say the same for the dark mage though, the pink-haired girl sighed. Naruto gave him a beating that he would never forget. I'm surprised that he even survived. After all, Naruto was going to ask her out, finally, and Hinata was training. And you put two and two together. She was tired out from training when she was attacked, and Naruto was going to meet her at the training grounds. He saw her being attacked, and the dark mage met an unlucky fate. Neji mumbled. He clenched his fists. This means war. That is exactly what Lady Tsunade said. Red Griffin doesn't know who they're picking a fight with, and they will learn the hard way. The pinkette turned her attention to Lucy. Who is she? This is Heartfilia Lucy. Shikamaru introduced. Lucy, this is Haruno Sakura. Wait, you said, Heartfilia Lucy. The pinkette said, a little stunned. I've heard of you. You're from the Wizards Guild. Fairy Tail, correct? Lucy was a bit happy that someone actually recognized her. This meant that she is finally getting a reputation. Yup, that's me. Good, Sakura smiled. I'm guessing that you have a team and that they're here, right? Yes. Why? Lucy answered. Get them, and meet me in front of the forest at 12:45. I have a feeling we're going to need your help. Sakura said. Come on, we can't keep Lady Tsunade waiting. Lucy smiled and scratched the back of her head. If they care so much about their members, then their guild master shouldn't be all that bad. Gray, Natsu, and Happy all exchanged looks. The Ice Make Mage had a sudden realization. Wait, Natsu, do you remember when that guy Choji came and got Shino? Natsu seemed confused, but still understood. Yeah, he said that their Hokage had summoned him. Why? And you remember how before Choji came, Shino was about to tell us what Konoha really was? Gray said. Natsu remembered but still wasn't getting the message, which caused Gray to pinch his brow and sigh. If we help Konoha, you can meet this Sakura chick and we'll be able to meet the rest of Dark Mages, and get all the information we need. Oh. Natsu smiled. It was settled, but a knock on the door caused their planning to be disrupted. The room was silent. It was as if it was a graveyard without a soul around. This was Makarov's office. His worry growing with every second. How were they? What did they find? What is their condition? What is the condition of Terra? Who is there with them? What is going on? Has Natsu met Sakura? Those were only a few of the questions that were floating in his mind. He had been pondering on whether or not to send another team, just to be safe, but he knew that Team Natsu was one of, if not, the strongest team in Fairy Tail. Oh, but how reckless everyone is. His guild may be strong, but it is known for its recklessness. Dark Guild. Konoha, on the other hand, is not only strong, but it is known for its almost perfect precise accuracy. This is one of the things that makes them so feared and why it is so known. The other is that they too have a few reckless members, one being the dark mage Kiba Inuzuka and his dog Akumaru, and their infamous spell, Fang over Fang. Makarov dreaded that spell. If it can go though solid steel, then Gajeel and Urza would have a major run for their money. After all, they are one of the few mages that actually give Natsu a challenge. Gajeel and Urza are both known for their armor, and if that armor is broken, they will have great challenges, and if it's true that Kiba and Akumaru could use their spell to go through steel, then that would mean Gajeel and Urza wouldn't be a challenge to them. But that wasn't the only thing that Makarov was worried about. It was the possibilities. If Kiba and Akumaru could use such a powerful spell so many times as if it were an everyday thing, Then he must have a spell that is twice as powerful if not more. The old wizard's train of thought was immediately shattered when the door was knocked on. He yelled, "Come in," and to his surprise, it was Mira Jane. She held a large envelope close to her chest. She made her way to his desk as she said, "Master, a messenger from the Wizard Council told me to give this to you." When he got the envelope, right away, he began opening it, but when he saw what was in it, his heart stopped for a moment as his blood ran cold. It was a file, containing more information on the dark mages of Konoha. "What is it?" the white-haired teen asked. "And nothing," Makarov lied, "just some paperwork." "I know you're lying," Mira Jane sighed, "tell me what it is." The old mage looked into her eyes. "It has to deal with the Dark Guild in Terra." Her eyes went wide. "What?" "This some more files that tell about the few wizards that are known to be in that guild," he explained. "May I see?" she asked. He knew that it would be best to deny her, but it would only cause more stress, so he nodded. "Dear Makarov of the Wizards Guild. Fairy tale, we received some more reports about the mages of Dark Guild Konoha. Here are some of the findings. Though it may be few, but it was worth sending. We hope you will find that this may be of some use to you. Signed the Wizard Council Tenton. She is known for her extensive knowledge of weaponry, but it is small compared to the way she skillfully and creatively uses it. She has been known to summon weapons through the use of a large scroll. One report said that once she had summoned 2 small scrolls. But when summoned, they go through a large cloud of smoke that looks like 2 long dragons, but revealed to be the 2 small scrolls. She will then spin in midair, and summon and throw so many weapons with such accuracy. Dodging is no longer an option. No one knows what this magic is, but it is speculated to be an ancient form of re-equip magic. Sigh. He is said hold very little to no emotion whatsoever, but contradictory to this, he uses a strange form of picked magic. All he uses is a paintbrush, black ink, and a fairly large scroll. This artist can make animals and even weapons. But what is strange is that he calls his spell, Super Beast Scroll. Kakashi Hatuki. He is said that he considers himself as a copycat wizard, and many agree. He is said to even be able to mimic every movement his opponent makes, if not better. From spells to attacks, he can copy them all. But there is said to be a spell that has claim to one of his own creation, one he calls Chidori. 1,000 birds, which is said to be lightning magic. He has claimed to have used that very spell to cut a bolt lightning in half. Ino Yamanaka. She is said to have a strange magic that allows the user to transfer their mind to the opponents, possessing them to such a point that they can control them as if it was their own body, then transfer back to their original body as if nothing happened. Though what happens to the user is said to be as if the user is dead, while their mind in the opponent's body. The user is still alive and needs someone else to guard their body. She is said to be able also possess animals as well as people. She calls this strange spell mind transfer. It is unknown how to counter this spell. All that Makarov could think is, as if I wasn't scared enough already. Dreams and wonders. Deep into that darkness peering. Long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven. Mebuki woke with a jolt, her heart beating as if she had ran several miles in a second. In a way it felt as though it was going to burst out of her chest. She looked around. She was alone in her tent, meaning that Kazashi was outside helping the others rebuild Konoha. She put a hand to her heart. She had such a crazy dream, but the voices and sound wasn't present. She quickly got dressed and made her way outside. Unlike the way she felt, the sky was clear and the sun was shining brilliantly. The children were playing around as if there wasn't a care in the world. She saw that there were fewer ninjas in the construction site. To her relief, they were looking for the Hokage and the other children, like Sakura. She sat down by a tree that was near the village, thoughts flooding her mind. "Hey, Mebuki," called an all-too-familiar voice. It was Yoshino Nara, a fellow member of the Allied Mother's force. The brunette ran up to her and immediately saw that Mebuki was troubled. "Are you okay?" The blonde shook her head. "No. You're worried about Sakura, aren't you?" Yoshino guessed. "Not only her." Mebuki stated. Do you remember my son, Sanshuo?" "Yeah, he disappeared during the attack of the 9 tails, what about him?" Mebuki sighed. "My heart says that he is where Sakura is. But it's been so long. I know they're both alive, but how can I know for sure?" I see, Yoshino said. You've been feeling like this for a while, haven't you? Yes. But that's not it. I had a strange dream. I think it's about them. Yoshino raised an eyebrow. Oh, tell me about it. Well, it starts off with a boy that looks a lot like Sanshuo, but he looks to be the age that Sanshuo would be if he were here today. He was walking around a small village and he was accompanied by a flying blue cat. The cat got scared off by a Kumaru who I have no idea as how he got there, but the boy didn't even seem fazed by it and continued to walking. The boy then went into a hospital and got into a conversation with the nurses. I guess the nurses said something and the boy was shocked at what they said. After that he walked out of the hospital and he seemed to have something on his mind after that. I have no idea what was being said. The voices and noise was completely silenced in my dream. If I try to remember, I can't read their lips. Yoshino thought about what her fellow mother said. Well, maybe we can have Inoichi check your memories and see if he can find out what was being said in that dream of yours.
That's a good idea. Mebuyuki smiled, but it soon faded due to her worry. I'm worried about them. I'm so worried about Lady Hokage and the kids.
Yoshino nodded. I am too. But in this situation all we can really do is hope for the best. Hope for the best, hope for the best, Te? Is that the best you can come up with? Fua growled as he looked into his transition lacrima. Oh, how boring, Te. He cut the magic flow and grabbed his traditional Grim Reaper scythe and used it like a magic broomstick to fly up near the roof of the cave that he hid in. He used his magic in such a way that he could lay down on the broom and not worry about falling off. He was the only mage to ever blend wind and airspace magic. He liked to call this form of magic wind space. I sometimes wonder how is it that mothers can be so dramatic. Actually scratch that girls. How can girls be so dramatic, Te? He asked no one in particular. He looked around only to find that he was still alone. He let out a depressed sigh. He wasn't one to be depressed, actually far from it. He was always a cheery boy with too much energy and too little time. He would always come up with scenarios in some way, shape or form and ask people about them. But that was just a small part of his personality. He was never cruel to anyone nor thought himself to be cruel. No, not even in the slightest, but if provoked he could be. He considered himself normal and thought of himself to be the good guy, but there was something that he always had the habit of doing. Besides saying, Te, at the end of every other sentence, he had the habit of thinking too much into something. Usually, the one who was closest to his heart would always point it out and get him to stop. But she was no longer with him. He had scared her off and she left him to his own devices. He missed her dearly. As his thoughts of the past grew deeper, he reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 pictures, both having the one person who would ever understand him, his sister. One picture was of him and his sister when they were kids, the other showed his sister with 2 ungrateful boys. Oh, how he hated them yet envied them all at once. He envied them because they get to spend time with his sister. His reason for hating them is because those 2 dunderheads asked her out. They're lucky he wasn't there when they did. He would have kicked both of their asses so hard that they would have wished that they were never born.
But Fua can't be anywhere near his sister because he scared her off when she was 11, and he was positive that she still hates him to this day. But it is his job as her older brother that he will see her again, and make sure that she is in his protection. And as his first act as being her older brother is bringing Fairy Tail here and making her a hero. That is why he is here, is to make her dreams come true. After all, she told him that it was her dream.
He looked deeply into the 2 pictures. His sister was very young, petite, teenage girl. She was fairly slender, and was pretty short for her age. She had shoulder-length, sky-blue hair and hazel eyes. Bookie. Flashback. It was in the middle of summer. The sun was shining and the heat was almost unbearable outside, but thanks to the nice air conditioner in a small house in a small town in the Kingdom of Fury, 8-year-old, Fua was able to be nice and cool as he was reading a long, wordy book on wind magic. Life was good.
There was suddenly a knock on his door. Coming, he shouted.
When he opened the door, he was shocked to see his 7-year-old sister in her swimsuit, standing outside his door. Chua, his little sister exclaimed, "Come outside and play with me." Bookie, it's too hot. Fua sighed. He never minded his nickname. After all, it isn't her fault that she couldn't pronounce his name until she turned 5. She huffed and stomped one of her feet against the carpeted floor. Don't call me Bookie. You're more of a bookworm than I am. He let out a small chuckle. Okay, book, whoops, I mean Levi. Levi glared at him. She knew he stumbled on his words on purpose. Fuwa just smiled at her. Well, since you're not going to convince me to do whatever it is that you wanted me to do, I'm gonna go continue reading. He turned his back to her, but suddenly he felt ice-cold water be thrown onto him. He was soaked from the head down. He slowly turned to see Levi, giggling at him. When she realized that he was glaring at her, she stuck her tongue out at him, then ran away. Fuwa began chasing after her as he shouted, "Oh, you're gonna get it now." During the chase, the two were on tiled floor, and due to the fact that the older brother was soaking wet, he slid into wall, face first, causing the little sister to laugh at him. The chase continued, and the next thing he knew, he was outside and Levi was in a deep kiddie pool. She had her little lime green floaty on. She was smiling at him. 1 point for Levi, 0 points for Chawa. He face-palmed. You got me good. Yup, I'll go put on my swim trunks. He sometimes wished that he had a little brother instead, but he still loved his sister with all his heart. Soon he was outside and in the pool with his little sister. He was using his wind magic under the water, creating a current so Levi would be going around the pool without having to do anything. She was continuously saying, she was being pushed by the current. Hey, Chawa? She said in a curious tone. Yeah? You're really good at a magic. When are you going to join a guild? She asked. Huh, he hummed, I never really thought about it. Well then, why do you study magic, if you're not going to join a guild? She huffed. To protect you, of course. He grinned. Protect me? She was shocked by the answer. Why would you need to protect me? You're my little sister, and I vowed to protect you whether you like it or not, he stated as if he was a knight in shining armor. Levi then gained a determined look on her face. Then, as your little sister, I'm going to protect you. I mean it, and I'm going to become a hero, all to prove it to you. I'm going to join the best guild in all of Fury, Fairy Tale. Okay then, what kind of magic are you going to use? He taunted with a sly smile as he stopped the current. She looked up and began to think, I don't know. He then got an idea. Well, how about solid script? She looked at him curiously. It's a type of magic that uses words and gestures, like if you were to say, fire, the word, fire, will appear and will shoot fire at your opponent. Really? She said, excited. Yeah, I read about it, and it really suits you, Bookie. Levi splashed water on his face. I'll show you a bookworm. I'll become the greatest solid script wizard in all of Fury, and you'll be the one who needs protecting. Whatever you say. He splashed her back, and soon they were both getting water everywhere. Fua's heart ached. She was right, she is great mage. Although she shies away from battle, but she is slowly becoming assertive when it comes to it. He wasn't crazy. He was going to make sure that she becomes a hero, and fulfills her dreams. He was just trying to be a good big brother. That is all, even if he has to fool a few others into his plan. He kinda felt bad about sending Natsu into another world, but when he looked at what happened in the long run, he did the right thing, even if it meant one unhappy family. But hey, he is righting his wrong, even if it meant making an entire village vulnerable, and cause some magic to leak into this ninja-filled world. It's all for Bookie. He thought to himself, it's all for Bookie, for Levi. He was doing all of this for her, and only her. Shino sat atop the headquarters of where he, Tsunade, and their friends were staying, his mind mulling over what had gone on when he was summoned to Tsunade's office. It was like being talked down like one would do to a child. Her way or the highway, nowhere else to turn, just complete the task. It was a simple order, but the feeling of dread that was seeping into him was draining him of the energy that he had. The dread was formed from the frustration that Tsunade had. She had been that way after a week of being in this strange world of magic. The stress had gotten to her, the stress of worry for her shinobi and her villagers, making sure that everyone was in line, order, kempt, fed, taken care of. No one can truly ever take the stress off her back. If the Aburame thought about it, the last time he saw that she had a good night's rest was about 5 days ago. He sighed. He held a mosquito on a finger. The female insect stared at him. She needed the protein from the blood to form her eggs, but he needed her for a part of his mission. He needed her to get blood from Dragneel for Tsunade to use to perform the first part of the test, to see if he really was Sanshuo. Due to the fact that the blood sample would be very small, the Hokage will have very little white blood cells to extract DNA and work with in order to see if they match up with Sakura's. Once that is over with, Shino will have to bring the fairy tale team to the hideout and get Natsu to willingly give them a blood sample so the cage could have more to work with. Sakura and Ino will be doing the tests when the mages get there due to the fact that Tsunade has been healing Hinata's wounds from the attack that happened not too long ago, not to mention making sure that everyone was prepared for their guild war. The Aburame gave the insect instructions and sent her off to retrieve the blood. She would be free to do what she pleases after she did the small favor. Hey Shino. He looked over. It was Kiba and Akumaru. Lady Hokage's stress boiled on top of you, didn't it? He and his animal Nin sat down beside him. The insect user nodded. She gave this feeling that she was about to kill me. Yikes, the Inuzuka cringed at the thought. Well, on a lighter note, she told me about that Dragneel guy. Do you really think that? Well, you know, that he really is Sanshuo? Shino thought about it, the memory of when he first saw Natsu playing in his mind. Well, if you were to have saw the way he was about to attack Fullbuster, you would have thought it was Sakura about to attack Sai or Naruto. They're that much alike. Kiba's eyes widened. It was the way he raised his fist. You and I both know how Sakura raises hers when she's mad. He did the exact same thing. Even the grit teeth and wild look in her eyes thing that she does? Damn. I don't even want to know what he's like when he's full-blown pissed off. Kiba bit his tongue. I mean, Tsunade told me that he is a fire user, so. He's a fire dragon slayer. Wait, what? Kiba looked at his comrade with eyes wide as saucers. Dragons? You can't be serious. I thought it was metaphorical as well. I did some research, and no, it's not metaphorical. They do exist. They disappeared a long time ago. If I were to take a guess, it would be when we were still in the academy when the dragons flew off somewhere. Shino stated. Also apparently, dragon slayers are children that were raised by dragons. That means that Natsu was raised by a dragon throughout his life. The Inuzuka sat there, eyes wide and teeth grit. A moment went by the two boys and the dog as if it was only a second. Kiba tried to process the information. Every second that I'm in this world I feel more out of place than I already am. I know how you feel, said Shino, watching one of his beetles crawl around his hand. You should have seen the way they looked at me when I used my insects to stop Dragneel from attacking Gray. They all looked at me the way we did to Gaara during the Chunin exams. As if I was a monster. Kiba's brows furrowed. Damn. It seems like we just can't get a break. No matter what we do. But the big question is, if we do find a way to get back, and if Dragneel really is Sakura's brother, what'll he do? Shino shrugged. That will be up to him. If he wants to meet his family, that's his choice. But the thing is, all his life he has lived in this world. It's all he knows. If he comes back to our world he'll have to adapt to it. But that brings up another question. What if he doesn't? What if he doesn't come to our world? If he does, what if he doesn't adapt? Kiba smiled. Well, it's up to him to decide. His smile faded. I know I wouldn't be able to. But there is one thing I can decide. Oh, and what's that? Shino asked. That I'm going to kick Sai's ass straight to hell. Kiba grinned with fire in his eyes. Shino face palmed. He'll never let you and Sakura live it down, and you'll never be able to beat an Anbu Black Op. Just be glad you got him to laugh for once in his life. No, I refuse. If Sakura and Ino are able to punch his lights out, then so can I. I will not allow him to keep calling me and Sakura the pink puppy couple, Kiba growled. And you're helping me kick his ass. Shino rolled his eyes. He remembered the day clearly. Kiba and Akumaru were fighting over a bone and Sakura was going to go check up on Naruto. Due to bad timing and chance, Kiba ran into Sakura in such a way that he tackled her down into a beeple position, and since that day forth Sai began calling the two the pink puppy couple. Every time Sakura and Kiba are in the same room they make sure that someone is in between them. I am not getting involved in a problem you created. Shino glared, interrupting the conversation. A mosquito perched itself onto Shino's hand. It was the very mosquito that he had sent to get the blood Tsunade needed. With that, Shino got up and signaled Kiba to come with him to take the blood to the Hokage. To be continued, and thank you for watching.